Hello everyone, and welcome back to Revit Snippets. Great tips you can learn in just a few minutes. This video is brought to you by RV Deep Clean. Over 40 ways to clean and downsize your Revit model, all in one place. Get your free copy today by using the link in this video's description. Have you ever wanted to quickly resolve all of those warnings in your Revit model that says there are identical instances in the same place, or highlighted walls overlap, highlighted floors overlap, and so on? Well, let me show you today how to build a quick Dynamo script to do it super quickly for you. For example, I have here a simple Revit file with a few overlapping items. If I go now to Manage, go to Warnings, I can see there are items that are in the same place. So when I click on this, I can see that there are two chairs there overlapping, as you can see highlighted. And then when I go to walls, it has four pairs there. When I click on this, I can see that's a wall there overlapping with this other one. That's why the graphic is a bit funky there at the corners. Anyway, I can of course delete one of them manually, but usually people will either want to keep the oldest item in the group of overlapping objects or the newer item in the group. For example, I have here two walls. I often want to keep the older wall because that's the one that was there first and the new one maybe was created in error. Or I might want to keep the newer wall because the old information I don't need it anymore. So if you want to fix the errors quickly that way, we can use Dynamo to do everything in one click. So if I now go and open Dynamo here, the script here we will build today will let you choose to either keep the oldest item in each overlapping group or the newest item in each group. If I now choose to keep the oldest item, we can now click on True there and click Run. Immediately you can see some IDs were deleted. When I go back to the model now, go to Manage and Warnings, I don't have those overlapping items or items in the same place messages here anymore. If I instead go back, change this from true to false, and click Run, you can see now we have a different set of IDs there because now the older items in each overlapping group were removed and the newer ones we have successfully kept in the model. So if you want to try this script here yourself right now without building it, just go down to this video description and use a link there to download the script directly. Otherwise, if you have a bit more time, let me show you now how to build this script yourselves step by step. By the way, if you are new to this channel, make sure to subscribe now because we do tutorials like this every single week. Okay, let's begin. I have here once again this very simple Revit model. Let's create a few duplicated items now so we can show you how to delete them. So let's start with drawing some walls in here. Let's do basic walls for now. And I will place them like this. Also, let's put in here a few furniture items. Maybe try this desk here. And now to simulate the duplication of items, I will just select them like this. To copy and then paste them to the same place. So this will be giving us 5 different warnings. When I go to Manage, Warnings, we can see there are duplicated or identical instances in the same place. How about expanding this? This is just for the desk. So this is one and that's another. The walls, however, are below here. So you have highlighted walls overlap. And then you have 4 pairs. Each pair has 2 walls overlapping. So now we can start using Dynamo to resolve these warnings. Let's go to Manage again and open Dynamo from here. We can start now by making a new script with the run mode changed to manual. Let's do Python script from string. Now it's the usual thing I normally do in my tutorials. Let's make now a way for Dynamo to read a text file that contains a Python script. We can then use the text from that file as a script input for this node here. And then it will just run the Python script that we have in the text file. And then we can look for a file path node. And then file from path. Connect it to there. Then we can read the text from this file. Coming up from there. And the text we receive can go straight into this Python node. Make sure everything aligns. And that's good to go. I will also save the script before we forget. Let's go this one. Resolve identical instances. Warning. That's good. I can now change to Visual Studio Code. If you are new to this kind of workflow, don't worry. Just go down to this video description and use a link there to see my basic video tutorial on how to script things in Dynamo this way. It will also show you how to set up and use Visual Studio Code because this is really the best editor you can have for writing Python script to use later in Dynamo. The video will also show you step by step how to create and understand and use this Python script template that I have opened already. So that should give you all the information you need to then come back to this video and follow me from here. The first thing to do is to create an empty list of element IDs I will delete later on. So let's call this one IDs to delete. And let's initiate it like this, a list of element IDs, making it new. Next step, we need to get the warnings from the active Revit document and then loop through the warnings to find the ones we need. We can do that with a basic for loop. So let's do for f message, f for failure, so that's failure message, in the document.warnings or get warnings. Now, these warnings, they can be warnings or errors. We don't want to touch errors for now. All those identical instances in the same place messages, they are warnings. So to check that they are, we can now look at the severity of the failure message. Let's do if f message dot get severity. That will return either a warning or an error type of message. So if it's not a warning, we don't want to touch it. We can do now does not equal failure message, or actually failure severity dot warning. If it's not a warning, then we do continue to the next item in the loop or to the next failure message. We can come down here now and get the warning description text. Let's call it a new variable here. Description is a good name, and this will equal to add message dot get description text. That will give us a string showing the full description of the message from the warning. Let's see what it looks like first. So let's do watch.append description. Now, as you can see, there's a yellow line underneath my watch variable. That means it's not defined yet. Let's go up here and define watch as an empty list. Now we can save the script, go back to Dynamo, and now browse to the file. It's the one there, resolve identical instances warning. Let's open this and run Dynamo. Okay, there's an error. That's not good. Let's see what it's about. The name false is not defined. Oh yeah, this is a classic error. When I browse to the file, I shouldn't have selected the dyn or Dynamo file. I should get the text file. So let's go back here and do test.py because that's the file I'm writing here in Visual Studio Code. As you can see, it's under Revit Dynamo and then test.py, and that's the one I should select from here. Let's open this and try again. Okay, so no more warnings. Let's see what's coming out from here. We have 10 items, and there are indeed the full description of the warnings. Now, the one we need are identical instances in the same place, highlighted floors overlap, highlighted walls overlap. So now let's find a way to separate those from the ones we don't need. Let's go back to Python now. The key here is to look at the description text and determine if that's the one we need or is it a warning that we want to skip. So let's go down to here and do some more checking. Actually, before doing that, let's convert the description here to lowercase. Just so if the warning is sometimes uppercase, sometimes lowercase, we don't have to do separate checks for it. Now, the first check is simple. We can just say if the string here is not in the description text, then we skip the warning. We continue to the next item in the loop. Now about the highlighted walls overlap or highlighted floors overlap, that's not something we can check in that simple way because the noun in that term can vary. For example, instead of floors and walls, we can have ceilings overlap or columns overlap and so on. This is why we need to use here something called regular expression. And to begin using that, we need to import the relevant Python library for regular expression. That's very simple. Let's go up here and do import for regular expression. And going down to here, we need to define the pattern to use. Let's call it here a new variable called pattern, and it will be a raw string. So I will begin that with the R character and then the quotations to begin writing the string. Actually, while doing that, I noticed I didn't change this t here to a lowercase t. We need to do it because up here we have converted the description text to lowercase. So if I was using a capital T there, it would never match this condition. So everything from here now should be lowercase, including the pattern itself that we have down here. Now, to work out what regular expression pattern to use is another exercise in itself, but there's a website that makes it so much easier. Let me open it here. It's called Regex 101. The idea of this website is if you put in here the string you want to test, and then up here the regular expression, it will show you all the matches in the string against this expression up there. Here I have already the expression typed in. It's simply highlighted, then a space, then any number of lowercase characters, then another space, then the word overlap. So as you can see down here, it has found two matches in my test string. So highlighted words overlap and also the one below. If I instead change this H to a capital H, it doesn't match the pattern anymore because it's not highlighted. And also on the top right corner here, I can see only one match was found. So it's very important that we go for lowercase in all situations. And because the pattern is defined like this, if I do another one like highlighted floor or ceilings, overlap, that's now also another match. I have here three matches, and this text is also highlighted. So this pattern here is the one to use. If you want to understand more about how this pattern works, you can check out this explanation box here on the right of the website. For now, let's make it simple. Let's just copy this pattern there and paste it into our variable like this. Next step, let's check the description text against the pattern to see if there's at least one match. To do so, let's do if regular expression.search, and then we supply the pattern itself followed by the text description. So if that is a none value, that means no matches was found this way. So we can then safely continue. Having done the two checks here, I can now save the Python script, go back to here and see what's coming out this time. It's empty, so it's not good. Let's go back and see what's happening there. Oh, I see what's happening now. This is because we're not checking both conditions here at the same time. So if a message that says highlighted floors overlap doesn't pass this condition here, which was what happened, it will never get to the second condition to become qualified. So let's do a few changes here. Firstly, this should have been an equal sign. And let's call this one condition 2, like that. And the one up here, we can change that to condition 1. So we simply define the conditions, nothing else. Then when getting down to here, we say if condition 1 and condition 2. If both are true, then we skip the failure message. Let's save it and see what's coming out this time. Here we go. Now we got them all. Highlighted floors, walls, and the long one, identical instances down below. That's good. Let's go back here and see how we can resolve it. It's quite easy actually, because the failure message has a way for us to obtain the element IDs relevant to the warning. So we can call a new variable here, call it LMIDs, and that will become the failure message dot get failing elements. Of course, we want the IDs, not the elements, so let's change things up here. Let's make LMIDs an empty list first. Then we do a for loop here for LM in the list of failing elements. We can then append LMIDs with lm.id. Next step, we want to go down to here and check. If LMIDs has at least 2 items, then we're good to go. Otherwise, there's no point going further because there's only 1 item, so it won't overlap anything else. So the check here is if the length of the LMID list is less than 2, Then we continue the for loop. Okay. The next step here is dependent on user choice. To make the choice become available, we need to put in here a Boolean node. Set that to true, connect to here. And now let's put in here some node. Control W to add a new node there. And how about we say, so hopefully that's clear to the user. We can now place it here and select them both like this. Press Ctrl G to group them. Just make sure that wherever this Boolean node goes, the description will always be there to make it clear what to do. And put a group there. Let's save the script and go back to Python to see how we can read this value. Super simple actually. We can do if in 0, then we need to now delete everything in the group of overlapping items except for the oldest one. Because in 0 here means in 0 equals to true. Regardless of what options was chosen, we need to now sort this list of IDs by the value of the element's IDs. Because then we can say if we are sorting the ID list ascendingly, then the first list item will be the oldest and the last item will be having the biggest value. Therefore, it will be the newest item in the list. To make it possible though, we should go and convert this ID into an integer value. And the name of this list should change to element ID int for integers. Now I will firstly check that if that's working. Let's comment this line out and append this list to the watch node. Save things here, check things there. As a warning, of course, element ID has no attribute ID. So on line 54, let's see line 54 here. Oh, that's because LM here is already the element ID. I forgot that. Let's change that to ID here. And the same there. Save it, check it, rerun it, and we can see it's working now. Here you will see that by default, the list of IDs is already sorted. So we have the smaller items on the top of the list and then the bigger numbers following it. That happens everywhere here. Anyway, I don't think we should rely on that alone, because what if this doesn't work like this anymore? We need to sort the list ourselves. And that's super easy. Let's go down to here and do lmidins.sort. Save it, back to here, run it again. It'll be the same result, but now we are full control of sorting the list. We know that by doing this, we are sorting it ascendingly, regardless of the order in which Revit gives us the IDs from here. So that's good to go now. Next step, let's start deleting some items. I will now comment this one back. And now let's see. So if in 0 is true, that means let's put a comment here, make things clearer. The oldest item. And that means removing the first item from the list of ID integers. Let's do lm ID int and then the word there at the beginning, therefore delete. And then we supply the index of the item we want to delete from the list. Let's do 0 here, so we can remove the oldest item. Otherwise, we want to remove the last item in the list because that's the newest item we want to keep from being deleted. So in that case, let's do -1 here, because -1 will always give us the index of the last item in the Python list. That's good to go. Now we can check it out first. Let's save this and check it here. Let's pick this first pair to check. So we need, in this case, to have this smaller item disappear and only this item should remain. Let's run this now. Yep, that works. If you want to, however, keep the newest item, we change this to false and run this. And now we have the smaller number ready for removal. So everything works now. Let's go back to Python and start deleting stuff. Essentially here, anything still in the list of element ID integers, we want to append to these IDs to the delete list, so we can delete everything there later on. Let's do a list comprehension syntax here. How about IDs to delete.add, and then element ID from the integer ID int. ID int will be from the list of element ID ints, so let's do 4. ID int in lm ID ints, like this. And then we need to check what's coming out from there. So let's put IDs to delete there, save it, double check here. Very nice, everything now is in the same list. So the last step is super simple actually. Let's go down to here and open a new transaction so we can modify the Revit document. Let's do width transaction on this document with the name of delete overlapping items str. Then we start tr like this. Then we do document.delete. Delete everything now in the IDs to delete list. And then we do tr.commit. Let's save it now and try it out here. Okay, you can see already something changed in the viewport. Let me do that again. If I undo this, there are weird lines there where things join because there are overlapping items, so that it get a bit confused. And also, when I select things like this, I can see there are 2 furniture items and 8 walls. If I now run the script again, save it, open it back, and click run. If I now go back after the run to here and select the same items, it's now only 1 furniture item and 4 walls, so everything works. Anyway, if your objective here is to reduce the model file size as much as possible by doing this, then it's a good thing to do, but usually it's not enough because there are many more things you should do to the model to make sure it's light and fast to work with again. To make sure you don't miss anything, it's recommended to try some of the Revit plugins like RV Deep Clean. If I go up now to Add-ins, I can launch RV Deep Clean now from the RV Boost panel. And as you can see, it's a collection of many ways to clean up the model. For example, under here I have the same option I just did today with Dynamo, which is resolving duplicated items. I can choose now, just like in Dynamo, to keep the oldest elements and delete the rest, or to keep the newest element and delete the rest. It works exactly the same way. But in addition, I have so many more ways to clean up the file, like purging unused scope boxes, purging rooms, areas, or spaces not in use. Even more here, I have purging design options, purging array groups, exploding all groups if I want to, deleting constraints from the model, or removing empty parameters and so on. Even better, when I go to views, I have more methods to use here, such as deleting items that are hidden in views and not visible anywhere else, or removing temporary views, orphan tags, orphan dimensions. Especially here, very useful is removing lifestyles, light patterns, and few patterns not in use. Very good if you exploded a CAD file and now found yourself in trouble with all those lifestyles in the model. Also, on this side, you can delete views not on sheets or sheets without any views on them. Next tab is links. It lets you clean up Revit links and CAD links quickly. For example, removing imports or even detecting CAD files in loaded families and so on. So the idea is you have in one place all the available commands to clean up the model. And then once you have set everything up, just click this single clean model button to have everything done automatically. So let's try it out. If I now undo the thing I did with Dynamo, now I'm back here with overlapping items, of course. We can now go up to RV Deep Clean and click on Clean Model. I now have this very nice report that shows me exactly what was deleted from the model. For example, some area boundaries were unused, so they were cleaned up for me. Same for unused separation lines of rooms. Also, some few pattern elements were cleaned up, as well as line patterns, and also views not on sheets. Everything was cleaned up for me in one go. And now my Revit model is much more tidy and light. We can then, of course, export the report here to a CSV or to Excel for checking if necessary. So, if you want to try RV Deep Clean completely for free, just go down to this video description and use the link there to get your free copy today. Otherwise, if you just want to clean up overlapping items today, feel free to use the Dynamo script that you can download directly using a link in this video description as well. If you like this lesson and want more like this every single week, make sure to subscribe to this channel now. For now, have a good day and I'll see you in the next tutorial.